welcome to Kickback with Chris, Martial Arts Podcast. Hello guys, and welcome to another show. Hope you're all well. Hope you're enjoying this nice weather we're still having. It's gorgeous weather. Hottest day of the year today, apparently. I can certainly agree with that to a certain degree in here. It's a little bit toasty warm. I've actually shut the windows today. I'm being a professional, so you shouldn't hear too much background noise. Although what I will say is, if you can hear the occasional banging sound, one of my neighbours having some building work done at the minute. So if you hear any hammering, that's what you can hear in the background. But yeah, another good week. Hope you've all been well. We've been managing to get plenty of training in, even in this hot weather. Best time for training and stretching, I think, is in the hot weather. Now, before we get started with anything, straight up with a little disclaimer here. I spent most of the beginning of this week in bed ill with some awful sort of stomach flu virus thing that's going around at the minute. I don't know about other instructors out there, but generally as a rule I don't catch stuff like that. So to be hit with this one, absolutely floored me. So the knock-on effect of that was, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get schedules to match up with our guest that we had planned for this week. Totally down to me, my fault. Well, I say my fault. I can't help being ill, but unfortunately, we weren't able to match up schedules to get things sorted because our guest was meant to be Mr. Mike Leader. For those that don't know, Mike is actually based in Hong Kong and is a very very busy guy. And obviously, with there being such a large time difference as well, we just weren't able to get things sorted. But we are going to get something arranged. So it's actually 3:20 in the afternoon at the minute here, UK time, which is incredibly late for me recording this. I've usually got it recorded, edited, and actually online by now. But due to various other issues, it's just been one of those weeks. Everything's a little bit delayed. But what I am actually waiting on is a callback from somebody, just to confirm if they're going to be able to do an interview with us on the show. I'm not going to say who it is on the off chance that I don't actually manage to secure that person. But I wanted to go ahead and just record the start anyway, so that we've got at least some things. I don't want to have a week of nothing going out at all. So some things to catch up on, because last week obviously we had our Jackie Chan special, which I'm really pleased how well that was received and all the positive comments. And what was so nice was seeing how it was picked up around the world. You know, it was being shared all over the place, and obviously we had quite an international sort of input from the people that called in, and thank you to everybody that persevered and managed to get the voicemail system working. I know there's a few hiccups with people on iPhones for whatever reason. It's supposed to be fully iPhone compatible, but apparently it wasn't for some people. Just for some people though. Why, I don't know, but anyway, we seemed to get around that in the end, which is a good thing. But yes, thanks to everybody that got involved. It was I really enjoyed the process. Very, very different podcast for me. Usually it's just a straight record, easy edit and upload. Well, I say easy, but relatively easy podcast speaking. And last week's was a completely different challenge, and one that I actually really enjoyed. So thanks again for everybody that sent in stuff to use. So this week we're a little bit out of date. We played a bit of catch up, but I say a few weeks ago, I think it was now, we had the launch event for the new Martial Arts UK online based magazine. Now I knew that the magazine was coming about, but I really didn't know too much about it. And it wasn't until I was at an event later on that evening. There was an awards event afterwards as well, and I was talking to Mr. Paul Barnett, who's one of the people behind it, and he was just explaining to me a little bit how it works, and it actually sounds like a really interesting premise. They're going to be including videos and all sorts of different content, so it's sort of more of an interactive magazine. I believe they're looking for a September launch. They do have a Facebook group, and I will include it in the show notes, so you can go and check that out there. But yeah, it looks like quite an interesting idea. So definitely want to take a look at nearer the time. I'm sure they're going to start promoting it more as the weeks draw closer. You'll remember, I'm sure, we had a fantastic interview with Mr. Lee Charles a couple of weeks ago. I actually really enjoyed that interview. It was a really fun, relaxed interview. A lot of people have commented, and on the fun element of it. And obviously Lee had a lot to share about, especially with time training with Benny Akides, which sounded fantastic. Now, in that interview, he mentioned a movie he'd been working on called Final Score. Now, at the time, there wasn't an awful lot he could say about it, but since then and now, the trailer has actually been released, so you can get onto Facebook and YouTube and all different places to check that out. And it's just often from memory, because being the pro that I am, I've forgotten my show notes. It features Pierce Brosnan. I know that much for sure. Dave Bautista as well, which obviously Lee mentioned in the episode. But go check out the trailer. Lee's actually in the trailer. You get to see him. So yeah, definitely it looks like one of those sort of good Friday night in sort of movies. Along the same sort of vein, a friend of mine, Mr. Adam Collins, who I had the pleasure of working with, I want to say I think it was 2 years ago on something. I got to take a pretend kick to the face from him and do a little fall on the ground. But he's actually been working on his own production, a movie by the name of Outlawed, which has just been released trailer-wise, that is, on Facebook this last week, and I have to say how super impressed I am by the production value, the quality of this film. I knew that it was aiming high with it, but I wasn't expecting to see what I saw quality-wise from this trailer, so I really urge people to go check it out. And what's so cool about this one is that 100% of the sales are going to be donated to the British Legion and then some combat stress charities as well. So, real good cause. So if I would highly suggest you go and check it out, and then just keep an eye out for more information. We're hoping to have Adam on in the next couple of weeks, just to tell us a little bit about it. Obviously, he is a martial artist himself and Royal Marine as well, so some interesting stuff to discuss there for sure. Now, another one, it's another film. It's a bit of a film-based one, this one. A friend of mine, a director by the name of Ross Boyask, has another film out, another film by the name of Vengeance. Actually, the full title, I'm going to double check because I don't know if that's the full title or not. Yeah, I think it is. It's Vengeance. And there's a whole host of people in this one. You've got Brian Larkin, you've got Gary Daniels, lots of other people as well. And the trailer for that just landed this week as well. So, go check that one out, guys. This looks like a real good fun, and nice to see, Brick Kicker and awesome actor Gary Daniels in there as well. So, go have a look for that one, guys. Again, I'm going to link all of this in the show notes, so you can go and have a little look-see. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut there for a quick break. I'm going to go and see if our guest that we've got planned can get on with us, and then we're going to wrap up after that with a few little discussion points, things that have been niggling me and things that people have suggested this last week. So yeah, thanks for putting up with this slightly rushed episode, and I'll catch up with you in a few minutes.
You're listening to Kickback with Chris, the martial arts podcast, brought to you by www.onlinekicking.co.uk.
Okay, so joining us on the line now, we have Nathan Salmon. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Now, first, what I've got to do is just explain to everybody that we are going into this one totally blind. Nathan has very, very kindly agreed to come on at the complete last minute. So last minute. Are you actually in a hotel at the minute? Is that what you are?
Well, not exactly. It's the last day before we start all of our summer camps, or the last week. Luckily, or rather unluckily, all of my coaches decided that they were going on holiday the exact same time. So this is my last free weekend that I've got for about 3 weeks. So and when I say free weekend, I mean free week. I'm going to be coaching Monday to pretty much Sunday for the next till about the 23rd or 4th of August.
Wow!
So I decided to go down to Poole, and I'm going to go to Bournemouth tomorrow, and then head back up on Saturday and coach again.
Wow! So we're very, very lucky. We're lucky to have you on. He's giving up his time in his holiday. You see, that we appreciate that sort of thing. But no, thank you, sir, for coming on. So just to sort of give a little bit of background information. Normally, I would have done this in the show opening, but because I wasn't sure if we were even going to be able to get this arranged, I didn't mention who you are or what we were going to be talking about at all. So we'll do that a little bit now. Nathan has got a background in performance martial arts and tricking, We've been speaking over the years. In fact, we spoke in depth for about 3 hours about 2 weeks ago, some of which would be cool to talk about again now.
Yeah, no worries.
But yeah, it's we've got very, very similar views and similar ideas. Some things a little bit different, but that's cool. That's what's good about these things for discussion. So
yeah.
I thought it would be nice if we could sort of talk a little bit about what you do with your classes, your background in martial arts, how you got started out, and then a little bit on sort of like UK tricking and martial arts scene. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Awesome.
I'm definitely up for that.
All right,
so
go right back to the start. How did you start out? How did you get into martial arts first?
Yeah, and you can hear my phone buzzing at me. So 1 moment. I'm just going to move all this rubbish off my phone. Close. Right. So I got into martial arts. I'm going to start by saying I've been listening to this podcast for a while now, and I think this is awesome. So I think what Chris is doing is I think it's a really good concept. It's nice to actually. It's nice to hear. It's nice to hear your views on stuff because I feel like we do have a lot of shared views. And obviously, one of my favorite podcasts you've done, if not my absolute favorite, was with Chris Vera. And
cool.
Literally listening to that podcast all the way through, I was like, me too. Oh my god, yeah, and I did that. Wow, that's nuts. Like all the Bilang.com stuff, and like understanding like you're only as good as the best guy in your club or your town, and it's funny because I had all of those experiences. So, so how I started in martial arts was. My original influences were my uncle has always been into like kung fu movies, and one of my earliest memories is watching all of the old kind of like Wu-Tang movies and Shaolin movies and all those kind of things. But I'd say by far the biggest influence on me into really wanting to get into martial arts as a kid was Ninja Turtles by a mile. I meet people now that I knew when I was in primary school, and every last one of them will always mention how into Ninja Turtles I was. More so than I even remember. But my early, again, like, so when I was probably about 7 or 8, I remember that the thing. So I've always done. I started off doing gymnastics, which was actually it was actually in a dance club, and I remember leaving that because I was the only boy, which I'm sure most people can understand when you're a young lad and you're in a class full of girls with leotards. At that age, it's not cool. Of course, probably looking, when you get to your teenagers, it's probably not as bad. But there you go. And then I moved from that to doing judo.
Okay.
And judo wasn't for me because I always wanted to obviously do all the kicks and the punches, and I was very interested in the more flamboyant side of martial arts and stuff.
Sure.
Obviously pre knowing that pre the terminology of tricking or even performance martial arts, it was when I was growing up, it was just known as like a cinematic, or it was just known as like fight choreography or stunts training or screen. I don't even know. It was just known as cool martial arts kicks, I guess. And I left all that, and I remember like my earliest kind of thing to go, I want to really do this properly, was going to watch Ninja Turtles 2 and seeing ironically one of the guys who taught Chris Vera, which is Ernie Reyes, who was in the movie, and I found out later on that he actually played one of the Ninja Turtles in the original movie.
Yeah, that's right.
Going to seeing that guy on screen just made. I remember coming out of the cinema, my mind was just, I've got to I just every day I wanted to do it.
Oh, and we unfortunately seem to have lost. We lost you there. Arts. We lost you there for a second, sir. You disappeared.
Am I back?
You're back now, but you went for about 30 seconds. I got the gist of what you were saying though. But that's the important things. You liked Ninja Turtles, and it got you into martial arts.
Turtles. I got into martial arts, and I started doing martial arts properly. I did it on and off from about maybe 9-ish. And then I wasn't really supposed to be doing it because my dad didn't like me doing it, so I was kind of practicing. Yeah, it was a weird one. Like, we used to do like a lot of summer camps or play schemes, and at the play schemes there was always a group that was doing like martial arts stuff, so I'd always do that kind of stuff. But what actually got me into doing it properly was I actually got mugged at knife point.
Oh wow!
When I was about 15, pretty was a pretty at the time it was a very like pivotal point because it was I kind of realized that I didn't really know how to defend myself because I hadn't been taught how to do that. So anyway, when I started it up properly, and then my first experience of seeing forms in real life was going to the Cine Martial Arts Show, which is actually where I met Chris.
Yeah, that's right. All those years ago.
Back in the Team Altitude days. Yeah, back in the Team Altitude days. I remember that.
Yeah.
And I saw Ashley Beck, and me being me, I saw it, and I was just, I've got to learn this stuff. And I used to travel from Birmingham to Sheffield literally every weekend, and eventually I got onto the team, and I competed for a little bit, but then around about the same time I started competing, I was also coaching for my instructor, and I kind of fell in love with coaching. Yeah. And it eventually led me on to running my own club, and then that evolved into the tricking school and tricking and forms and free running school now known as UTX Academy, and that's where we are today.
Wow, what a journey! What a journey! So, you mentioned there your academy and your classes that you run. So we've got what's really cool about what you're saying about. Thank you for the kind words about the podcast at the start. But what is really cool is we do have a large spread, a large mix of people that listen. And what's really nice is we actually had when we ran the interview with Chris De Vera, that is not myself. Well, I did actually interview myself one episode, which was bizarre, but anyway. And people liked that episode a lot as well, but anyway. But when I interviewed Chris De Vera, one of the things that we had was people messaged me afterwards and said, I didn't actually know anything about this martial arts tricking thing. So I went off and had a little look into it. So we do have a lot of people that are listening to this now that are interested, that don't actually fully understand what it is or what it's about. So I thought maybe, if you could maybe give your interpretation of what it is and obviously what you do with your classes and what people can kind of expect from coming along to train and learn from yourself.
So martial arts tricking, or it's now just known as tricking, as probably suggests from the title, the terminology is heavily rooted in martial arts, and what that originally was, it was martial arts demonstration. That martial arts tricking actually comes from performance martial arts or martial arts freestyle katas. The evolution of tricking to where it is today is that there's three elements to tricking. There's kicking, which is the martial arts background, doing kicks from taekwondo, wushu, capoeira, and then you've got the tumbling element, which we refer to as flips, obviously doing your back tucks, your aerials, and all of your tumbling progressions, and then you've got the twists, which is actually what really gives tricking its unique look and feel, because it's doing movements, it's doing the acrobatic movements like the tumbling movements, but you're taking off one leg and usually on an axis, which means that instead of doing, say, for anyone that understands or anyone that does tumbling, if you think of a round off back tuck, but as you're doing the back tuck you do a full twist. If you see the Olympics where they do the floor routines, you'll see that kind of stuff a lot. In tricking, you'll have the same movement, but instead of running into it forwards and then doing the round off into the flip, you'll do that same move, but you'll swing and kick one leg up, which will take you on a 90-degree axis, and then you'll do a spin, which is known as a corkscrew. But then it's evolved to the point where, I think it was it this year? It was either this year or last year that Michael Guthrie was the first person in the world to land quad corkscrew,
It's just nuts.
which is unheard of. So when you look at tricking, it literally is all of the crazy all of the crazy things that you're seeing, the stunt, the crazy not quite gymnastic movements that you're seeing in the superhero movies and and all of the sort of new school action movies. But it's when it really becomes tricking is when you take those kicks, flips, and twists and put them together, and then you form these huge these really flamboyant combinations of movement, and that's what tricking is. And then to answer the next question, the way in which we structure our classes. So because of my martial arts background, I try and we structured our classes in a similar format. So we obviously have, it goes up in grade level. in a similar format to the way you would do martial arts. But tricking can be taught as simply as, you don't have to be able to do a back tuck or anything crazy to start tricking. That's something that's obviously important once you get to a point. But a lot of tricking now it's a lot about the transition movement. So coming to our class, the first thing that you'll learn is really just learn about how to throw your body around. And the one thing that I've always loved about tricking is that it really is about your mental. It really is about a mental state of mind. And so a lot of the time when doing the movements, you have to you can't come at it where you know what you're not going to know how to do a move. When a lot of these moves that you're doing, they're just not, especially if you've got an adult, it's physically impossible to spot them. So you've got to learn that it's okay to fall. And when you watch like all of our elite guys training, or even just the little kids now that are getting to some crazy levels as well, doing moves that weren't even invented when I started. The first thing that they learn is you just got to, a famous quote from one of the Batman movies that we use all the time is, why do we fall? So we learn not to. Just constantly get back up and just go for it.
Yeah.
And in doing that and understanding that, and learning how their bodies, what it's like to spin and to flip and that kind of stuff, it then helps them. It kind of gives them. It takes away that mental block of saying it's just impossible to do this. So the kind of structure that we've put in place, which has come from a lot of it's changed obviously as it would do over years of training and so on, but we are able to take kids to a fairly high level fairly quickly because of the way we train them. Not necessarily the time or the facility. I mean, I'm a very big advocate of, it's not about, you could go to a gymnastics center that's got £1 million worth of equipment, but if you don't know, and you'll go there and you'll be happily jump onto the foam pit and all that stuff, but if you're not going there with a focus on how to train and what to train, it's all for none. So
absolutely.
That's kind of how we do it, and we're getting great results.
Yeah, I 100% agree with what you're saying there. I mean, in the old days, this is where I do my old man bit. It was no, but joking. I mean, even when it's not even that long ago. We're only talking 18 years, which really isn't that long. If you think about the progression of, say, martial arts, for example, and gymnastics, 18 years is nothing. But when I was learning this stuff, we threw ourselves until it looked like something that we'd seen somebody else do. And the only way we knew if it was right is if somebody said you've just done it, or if you were lucky enough to catch yourself in the mirror. So camcorders are just becoming sort of like sensibly priced that you could go out and buy yourself like a mini DV camera or something and record yourself. But it was very sort of a haphazard, throw yourself. Okay, that looks kind of right. And whereas now there's a lot more. Obviously, as you say, there is. Because we've come up doing that sort of thing, we now go, that's not a good idea. So now obviously there's processes in place, there's steps. We now know, if we drill this particular drill for long enough, and then, so that it's a fully systemized thing now. It's not like it used to be, thank goodness.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, one of my students, for anybody that wants to learn this, actually, I'll give a free plug right now. One of my former students, has now set up an online. One of my former students who's actually been one of our principal coaches, who's now a pro tricker, has actually put together an online curriculum, or an online training tool rather, and it's called Kojo's Trick Lab, which is he's got videos from literally the world's best trickers, because he gets flown around the world to all these gatherings. He's got videos from, like I said before, Michael Guthrie. He's got videos from Jacob Pinto. All of the big names out there, and they've all got tutorials, and then you've got interviews with their journeys into tricking, and so just to show where it's come from the way in which from when I started. I mean, when I first started tricking, people weren't doing TD raise anything. It was the kind of staple tricking combination that I remember was B twist 540 hook aerial. That was, if you had that, you were considered pretty high level. And now I've got 9-year-old kids that do cart dub, and doing like touchdown raise cork into gainer, all these other crazy big movements, and I'm looking at little kids that are just ankle biters, and they're just insane. And again, I do think, but I definitely feel like one of the strengths that we've gained with our club is it really is instilling the mindset for tricking. I think once we get a child and we can kind of break that, because you said this in podcasts, and I know you. I follow. Obviously, I'm friends with Chris on Instagram and Facebook. So Chris does every now and then he'll do a live video, and in fact, you did a live video. I think it was it last week when you were talking about the school and the kids weren't allowed to play football. Oh
yeah, I'm actually going to bring up some of that in my news piece after this. Yeah. Shocking.
And a lot of that, because I work in school again. When a lot of the time when I listen to Chris, I'm like, yeah, I get that. Oh, me too. And our shared experiences. And one of the things that is a lot of kids these days that they're very much it's about I want instant success. Like they don't understand it's okay to fall. It's okay to fail and learn not to fail. And then they also because they're just so, I guess it goes back to falling, because they're just the kind of ethos. A lot of kids are very everything has got to be really safe and really controlled. And of course our classes are very safe. We have a very, very low injury count. I mean, we don't, we're not calling ambulances every week.
You're not a trampoline park.
No, not at all. We won't talk about trampoline parks. We'll keep it all positive today. But, for the most part, there are some good trampoline parks, but for the most part, they're just, parents, get your kids into actually organised sports. If you want them to learn flips, taking them to a trampoline park, you're asking for death.
I'll say it. They're a pain in the backside, those places. They're a freaking nightmare. The amount of kids that we've had getting ready for tournaments or something, they've gone to a trampoline party, and then they've broken their ankle. Oh, Jesus. They've been coming to classes for 5 years and never once had a sprained ankle, and they go to a trampoline park for half an hour and they come out with the foot at a right angle. Those places are a nightmare. But like you say, don't get me on a rant. I'm not naming any in particular, so if you run a trampoline park, don't send me a snotty email. I'm just speaking in generic terms.
We actually run classes at a couple of trampoline parks, and we were approached by a couple because of that very issue. I think with not to go off topic here, but I think the trampoline parks they've now come under a lot stricter scrutiny because of the fact of having such high accident rates. But getting back to the point, it really one of our biggest things, which again really comes back to the martial arts side of it, is instilling a mindset with the kids and with all of our students that you're going to come in, you're not going to land this first time round, but you're on a sprung floor with crash mats and all the rest of it. You're not going to hurt yourself. It's more important that you go up and just go for the first one. And once you've gone for the first one, you'll happily go for it again and again. And eventually you'll understand how to land it. That might sound really crazy, but that mindset and that is actually a really big component in the success that we've had with the club. And I think that's just something that a lot of people shy away from, maybe scared of doing that. But we're again, I don't really worry about that because, like I said, I look at what we've produced and the caliber of students that we've got now, and like I said, we've got my Generation 1 students. One of them has just become a pro athlete for Adrenaline Worldwide, which is an online tricking battle, like an online tricking, almost like UFC for tricking. So it's an online subscription that they do like monthly battles. And one of them literally last weekend got signed as a pro.
Cool.
Which was actually my first UTX student. So shout out to Alex on my behalf for that. But that's pretty much it, and that's what you can expect when you come to our club.
Fantastic.
You will not be wrapped in cotton wool. You're kind of thrown into the deep end and shown how to do the techniques. And,
do a backflip.
Again, we do. Like I said, I don't want to make it out like we're just throwing kids around.
No, not at all.
A lot more to it than that, but. I do feel like that is a massive component. Just getting kids over the concept.
Just got this vision now of Nathan with like a cattle prod, just zapping children in the calf muscles. Jump now! Jump now! No. I've seen some of the videos. I've actually seen firsthand some of your students that have come through your school, and these kids are. The one thing that I noticed about them all, they were all confident in their ability to keep themselves safe. You know, there was no doubt when they were going into things, which straight away, you know, again, they're not going to land everything 100% of the time, but because there was no doubt in their head prior to setting up, there was no tension, and then when they didn't land whatever they were doing, there was no injuries because they were relaxed, and you know, and then they were straight back up and go again, and that, you know, that's a sign of good coaching straight away, because you can see that straight away. Now, we had a very, very long discussion a couple of weeks ago. I for those that know, I used to be quite heavily involved in the sort of form scene and the competition scene, and I competed myself, and then I had my own students, and I just backed straight out of it completely. But one of the things I wondered, and I wanted to put to you, that we didn't actually discuss this on the film, was the tricking scene, sort of the tricking, and I don't want to say sort of slash forms. We need to differentiate because they are different, but it's a very different animal to, say, the American market. They seem to have over there. They seem to have really latched onto it and sort of, I don't want to say commercialized it, but they've made it sort of, it's much more accessible. You see it a lot more, a lot of the time over there than you do here. And I wondered, you know, is that something? Obviously, I know that you're going to say you are aware of it, absolutely. But is it something that you're actively involved in, maybe trying to
100%.
encourage more, or does the industry over here want to keep itself enclosed, quiet, and shut down?
That's a very, very good question, and there is no short answer to this. So I'm gonna come at this as, and I try to be respectful in everything I do, and even if I don't agree with something,
I always try.
I always try to come at it in a positive way. I think that you are right. Like, so obviously, everything you just said. When I got into forms, it was through watching Bilang originally, and then finding Masslink, which is now known as sportmartialarts.com. And when I saw that kind of stuff, it was like, wow, you look at these tournaments in America, and you know, they've got these grand finals that are always on a big stage with a massive backdrop. And you know, okay, I will say, like, back when I was watching forms, a lot of them were done on carpets in hotel lobbies, or it looked like that. Or what I now know is obviously hotel, I guess, like the hotel conference suites. But you know, the forms, there was just so many people. When you look at these videos, there's just so many people in the forms divisions, and you know, obviously the level is just so much higher, and it really is an event. It really is like, you know, you go to the grands. I mean, from the earliest memory I can think of US Open has always been the ESPN televised version of that. And then you come to an event over here, and you know, it's usually in a community sports hall, at the back of the room. You know, and then when you're actually in the event, because obviously it's not, with the exception of a couple of events, you don't really see forms in the UK. You don't really see those forms online the way you see them in America, so you don't get to see the performances. But when you're there, it's a far cry from what you've watched. It's, like I said, back of the room, in the corner. If you're a competitor, you've got, you know, a very small space, or you've got judges that don't really know what they're looking at, or you've got really bad speaker systems. And it was something that I didn't really, when I was competing, and I have to be honest, as a competitor, when I first got into it, it didn't really bother me, because I think the scene when I was in it, there was, Ashley Beck was kind of in his last couple of years of competing, but I think the scene was quite big. There were a lot of clubs around that were doing it, so the categories always seemed fairly big. There was Brian Beck that was running Judgment Day, so you know, there were competitions that, you know, there were a couple of competitions a year that were pretty big and were done fairly well. But for the most part, it was, you know, the same scenario of a small cornered blah 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 blah. And now I'm an instructor, and I've got students that are competing, some competing on world level, and we have been to the US and seen US Open, which just blew my mind. Now it's really more a question of, okay, there are issues here, and I've been kind of, say it straight, ranting about this for years upon years. And it wasn't until So every time I've spoken about this stuff, I've also to kind of to go back a little bit. So I've been the head of forms for actually several different organisations, which I'm not going to name. But so by the head of forms, it means in some capacity I have been in charge or a coach or the official go-to person for forms at these events or in these organisations, and that was when it really hit me that there's a massive problem in this country, because when you talk to the promoters about it, ultimately they pretty much look at it black and white business side. So okay, how many people we want are people in categories. They're not interested in trying to invest in it, so I would say, for one of them, we had this big meeting and I said, look, you're trying to get people that don't exist. You've got an organisation that's got X amount of schools all doing fighting, and I know for a fact that in every one of those schools there's going to be somebody that wants to do forms. Why not invest in it now? Build up your own squad within, that are not coming from other clubs and have other other organisations with all their preconceptions. You can grow the market. You're big enough to do this, rather than just trying to look at who can we get to buy a grand ticket to come and compete on a world or European event. And they just weren't really interested. All they cared about was we just want people to come to the event. So okay, well, it's not going to happen. So and for a long time it was people if I'm going to put categories on and people don't turn up, there's no point in doing it. Great. And for a while I was like, all right, well maybe that's the case. I can't really say anything against it because I'm not running these things. And then along comes Jeff Scott, and he runs an event called Unity Games, if anybody's ever heard of that. And again, granted, the year one, I would probably say it was year one. Jeff clearly invested a lot of money in bringing Americans over. He didn't run it in a sports hall. He ran it in, I think it was I want to say it was the rugby or football grounds in Coventry. Small, not big, but very prestigious.
Yeah.
Put a lot of money into the production value of it. Looked like a proper American competition. Very, very, very well done. Very well put, very well laid out, very well organised. And then year on year, I've watched this event grow to be what is, without a doubt, the biggest, best forms competition in Europe.
Yeah.
Or to the and I can hand on heart say that purely because I talk to all the promoters and people that go to these events. I've been to Irish Open. I've been to some of the other European events. Nothing touches your Unity Games. So Jeff has proven that theory wrong, because Jeff invested first time round, and now to give you a scale of it, most competitions, as you all know, one mat forms runs from 9 till 5 o'clock. Jeff at the last competition, I think had the stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, had at least 6 or 7 areas at the last event, and we still, fair enough, he runs run-offs and then runs grands, but that event literally went from 9 in the morning, and I didn't leave there till close to 12 at night.
Wow.
That was the amount of competitors he had coming to this thing. So it then made me think, well, everything that all these promoters are saying is just bull, because they're looking at it and the way they're coming at it is saying, well, people aren't turning up to it. And prior to getting to running my own club, I come from sales, and one of the first things that you learn in business is if people aren't buying your product, there's a problem with the product or the service. Plain and simple. If the market doesn't want it, or there's something wrong with what it is you're offering, and I just don't get why the promoters just can't get that. So, and it'll be stupid things. It'll be things like they'll have, and I explain to all these promoters when they ask me my opinion, a forms competitor just wants to go to a competition and be treated the same as the fighters. So they'll have a grand, if they do have a grand or whatever, and 9 times out of 10 they'll have X amount of trophies for the grands, but they'll have 1 trophy for forms. Or they'll have, I've been to events where they literally have 1 set of trophies for forms and 1 set of trophies for fighting. I've literally seen it all. I've been to events where the rules say one thing, and because the people that they get on the mat judging have no idea what they're doing and have not, they do have no clue what they're looking at. Like, it's one thing to go to an event that has all those other issues, but to then go and you have an event and nobody knows what's going on. There's no organization to it. It's just kind of a free for all. It's just a nightmare. So I kind of got to a point, which is quite funny because I can't remember how this all happened, but so there was something going on Facebook where somebody. I'm not going to name names because I can't remember this, but there was a load of comments going on about the UK form scene. I remember it was somebody influential, but I'm not going to name names again because I can't
probably not a good idea.
Nah, again, but what they were saying was 100% correct. And this was the first time that I ever spoke out publicly and said, right, this is my take on the subject. And it was weird because again, it was really more of a, I'm just going to say how I feel about it. I didn't expect to get such a response from it. So I kind of almost went from, I guess what I was saying must have resonated with a lot of people because everybody was like, I was getting private messages. Man, everything you just said is exactly on point. I don't know why nobody else has ever said this. Everything you're saying is right. And then it was almost like overnight. I took over the we have there's a forums group on Facebook, and I took that over, and I almost became like this unofficial voice of UK forums, which I still find quite amusing. But no, like, so I'm very active in trying to grow the scene, and obviously I support all of the events, and I've tried to write reviews and I've tried to like help grow the scene, and I've kind of gotten to a point now where I've decided that I am now going to start really putting money into this thing, and I'm going to invest in running my own events.
Okay. So
I've got my first forms event in November, and then we've just finalised the deal to run an international event at the martial arts show next May.
Wow. Okay.
Which is going to be nuts. And then I'm also working on another project with another school in running a joint event with them. So the goal next year is to have a series of forms only events that are going to that are really aimed at not just the existing form students, but it's focused on getting those kids in that are grassroots, and really promoting the less experienced or less advanced students. And then I've got other things planned. So I've actually I'll give you an exclusive. So the UK, we're actually waiting for confirmation from the charity organisation, but we've just registered UK Forms as a charity.
Oh, wow.
So we've registered as a fully operational charity, which is going to. I don't want to say too much here, but I'll say what I can. I don't want to say too much, but I'll say what the plans are for it. So the ultimate plan with the UK Forms organisation is that it's not going to operate within any other organisation. It's going to operate alongside all of the organisations, and we want to be able to at least support one student one athlete every year and fund them to go wherever, to any international competition they want to go to, pay for their flights, their accommodation, everything. Wow. And obviously, as it grows, for more and more students, I also want to put on bring over some of the international athletes, not just for the freestyle and extreme, but we want to look at all aspects of forms, because now I've gotten into it and I'm talking to all these organizations. I'm actually realizing that it goes across the border. For some reason, kata, even in karate, is still seen as a secondary sport, and a lot of organizations don't really support their athletes. So not all of them, but a lot of them don't. So UK Forms is designed for any forms athletes that want to that want to compete internationally and want to compete at that level. We want to be able to give something back to the athletes, and that's the focus of it. So I'm waiting for confirmation on that. From what I understand, it takes. I should get confirmation in the next couple of weeks from the charity commission.
Wow.
But that's kind of the long term goal. So yeah, and that's kind of my take on forms in America. To answer that question again, I've kind of gone on a bit of a rant here.
No, just go for it. It's good.
The American competitions, I think the biggest difference between those competitions and the ones in the UK is that I feel like I feel like there is a history there, and I think that a lot of the promoters have embraced it because the Americans, a lot of their Generation 1 forms guys have now, like John Valera is now was a stunt guy and now a stunt coordinator. Same goes for Kim Do, he's also a stunt guy. And obviously moving, flash forward X amount of years, all of the Marvel movies and DC movies that you're watching, all of the stunt doubles are all NASCAR competitors. Kate Bishel stunt doubled Wonder Woman. I know that Daniel Graham stunt double Black Panther, as well as Guy De Silva. A lot of the guys from AKA, I think one of the original guys, Chris Brewster, stunt doubled Iron Man in one of the movies. I know Jackson Spidell was in the last Civil War. I am literally. So for anyone, for me to reel these names off, when you see people that love football and know statistics in football, I literally know stupid statistics because I've watched every single NASCAR form dating back to like 2003, so I could probably name who won something stupid in 2003. Like when I went to America and I met like some of the promoters, I remember talking for hours and one of them was like, I don't understand how you know all this stuff. I was like, well, I literally just have studied forms for years upon years because it was something I was fascinated with forms, probably over tricking because that was what got me into tricking. So but I think in America, I think they've really embraced that. And now when you go to the NASCAR competitions, forms is the draw for it.
Yeah.
When I think of something like John Paul Mitchell, all I'm thinking of, I generally don't know any of the fighters. The only person I knew that was on John Paul Mitchell was Raymond Daniels, and I don't think he's on that anymore. But in the UK, I think a lot of the promoters are fighters, and they know fighting and understand that. And I think for a long time, that if I'm being really honest, I do feel like for a long time, a lot of the promoters really didn't care for forms, and you can tell promoters, even when it's not, even with all the issues that I've spoken about, I think now a lot of the promoters do genuinely want to see forms bigger and want to promote it, but I still feel like they're coming with old school thinking, and that's why the scene is still where it is.
Or just bad advice. Just bad advice as well. I think like you say, I think a lot of them do want to do well with it, but because they don't understand it, they put their trust in other people advising them on what to do. And I think sometimes, as you say, that advice is
that's a very good point. And
20 years out of date.
Yeah.
I think that's sometimes
there's a lot. I mean,
they're promised, oh yeah, we're going to have this sorted for you, and they go, okay, great, thank you, and then they announce they're going to do it, and then the person that's done it maybe hasn't done it quite how people are expecting, and then the organizer gets it in the neck. I think that happens quite a lot, and it comes back to like you say before about you turn up, it's potluck, it feels like a lottery sometimes. Who are you going to get judging you today? Which is one of the reasons why I backed out of the scene, because it's nothing more frustrating as a coach when you put all your time and additional time into your students, and they give up their free time to do extra training. You take them to compete, and then you look at the lineup of judges and you're thinking, who are these people? We do this every week, and I've never seen them once. How do they know what they're looking at? Oh yeah, they know what they're doing. They don't. They're just making stuff up, and it's just frustrating. But you're going to fix all 100%. That. You're going to fix that, aren't you?
I'm going to try. But see, that's the thing, though. Like I think this year I've been so fortunate that I've met so many clubs up and down the UK that want to get involved in the form scene, and a lot of the time there's a barrier to it because what are the one or two things they don't know? They've gone to a competition and their kids probably haven't been given a fair shout because of the judging, or they don't feel like they can compete because you've got there's literally maybe 3 or 4 schools in the country that I would say compete at international level, and then everybody else is really more of a national stand, like a national level,
or even regional. I mean,
or even regional.
It's for those that maybe don't follow the sort of the form scene quite so much, the division between, I don't know if abilities are too much of a harsher word, but I suppose it's an honest way of describing it. But the division is it's massive. It's not like with the points or like continuous sparring. It's not like that at all. It's huge. Sometimes you can go to tournaments and you can go along and you can sit and watch a division. Just pick any, and then you can see one person get up and do something, and then in the same division, somebody gets up and you look at them and you're like, it's just like 110% better than the person that got up before, and not the person sits down and is sometimes they're sort of like totally demoralized, sort of like deflated, and that's a real hard thing to overcome. But I suppose, as you were saying, that if there's more out there to do, if there's more availability, it's not that these clubs can go and pick the easier competitions to win. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Think that's the case.
It's more that they can get the experience against other people at the same level. And
you know the funny. Yeah, so I keep going.
No, it's cool. It gives them the opportunity to settle in and to get their confidence, which in turn gives them the opportunity to then better themselves, to get better, rather than because some people, don't get me wrong, you'll go to some tournaments, you see somebody and they'll be like bang 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 bang, and the kids will be like, I want to be that good, and then they'll work hard to get that good. But the problem is the way that, and this is something I'm going to touch on later a little bit, the way that the kids are being taught now, they're not. It's not in them. That everyone's a winner. Doesn't matter if you come last. And so they're not having that. They're not having that drive and that passion to want to succeed. They're given an easy way out.
100%. Yeah.
They're given an easy. The amount of times I have kids stand up in front of me in my classes and refuse to move out of fear. And if I don't move, I won't get it wrong, so I won't move. And it's like, what? Well, we're not teaching them any differently. I certainly don't think we are. It just seems to be more of a sort of a widespread issue, and I would imagine that's translating into teachers and instructors having a hard time picking a forms team because the kids are just going, if I don't go wrong, if I don't do it, I won't go wrong, and then if I don't go wrong, nothing bad happens. What about what happens to trying to win?
It's everything. It's a weird one. I mean, like I said, personally. I think, all right. Like when I came up, was again like you, we come from an era of you go if you go and if you're bottom last, that what should happen is you should be like, right, I need to get to that level, and I've got to do everything I can do to get to that point. Not it's completely demoralizing. But on the other side of the coin, I do completely understand when you've got. Like you just said, there is a massive division with forms. Yeah. And, you are right. It's if you get a little kid coming up, I'm going to use terminology now, and I hope so if you get somebody coming up that can do doing a round off back tuck and doing all these crazy tricks that I spoke about earlier, and then you get a little kid that comes up that's, because there's not many clubs or places in the country that can actually teach these kind of, the tricking stuff. So because of that, that you are looking at a very small number of schools or individuals that get to what's considered now as being even a intermediate level in tricking. So if you get a school like mine that's obviously focused on tricking and has, and are fortunate to have like tricking athletes all day, every day that are throwing doubles and triples, a little kid, learning in that environment is going to be easier than going to a school where the instructor themselves doesn't understand how to teach that. So I get it. And I think you are right. There is a massive division in forms, and it's demoralizing to go to an event where you've got somebody doing a cartwheel and then you're doing this. And it's not like, well, I've got to do everything I can to get better. It's you just looking and go, I'm not going to learn that. Because little kids are not. If the little kids know that they're not in an environment that can teach that, or can't, or they don't have the tools to get, or they don't feel like they've got the tools to get to that level, then obviously it's a difficult pill to take. But touching on that point, I actually had a discussion with another school. I think it was the same week that we spoke. Well, I've had this discussion with them many a times, and the ironic part about it is that problem happens on the opposite side of the coin as well, where you get schools that are actually that good that they go to competitions and, it's kind of like, well, we know all of our kids are going to place. It's almost like they're just going to get a free trophy. The only way that they're not going to place is if they for whatever reason, drop their weapon. They're definitely going to win in open hand because, they don't really need to do their best stuff to win, to kind of win that division.
Yeah.
So it's if they do or don't drop the weapon on the day, that's it. And then you get those schools that are now having to look at, well, we're only going to go to international competitions to try and get competition. So I see that, but again, it's difficult because, like I said, I think the promoters, the way that they look at it is just really black and white. We put on their mindset is we put on the event, we put on the categories, no one turned up, so what's the point? Instead of looking at, well, why has no one turned up to the event?
Yeah.
Looking at it and go, it's hard to say that now because, again, you've got Unity Games. If people didn't want to do forms, that event would not be where it is today.
No.
You have people in this country that you have an event that has easily hundreds of forms kids from traditional to extreme competing in this thing. And if there wasn't a want or need for forms, Jeff did. So to kind of give you an example of how serious it is, Jeff Scott is I don't know what his background is, but I'm sure it must have been digital marketing or something. So I've never seen somebody go so hard with their marketing for an event, especially martial arts. I mean, he'll put out posters on a weekly basis or flyers, and it'll be different every single week. It's almost to the point where it feels like spam. And usually he'll be promoting his event, I'd say at least 6 to 9 months prior to it. And this was the first year that he's I think the event is now going to be 2 days. So for a very long time, there came a point where I even started saying to people, I don't think he's going to run this event. Then literally, he messaged me the day before he was going to put the event on to double check we were okay with the dates. Put it on, and the response that he got from just posting the one thing, he said to me, I had people from Italy, from France, all over the UK that were like, we're going. Everyone's it. Like, people are already asking when the registration's opening. That shows you that there's a massive need and want for this. But I feel like the promoters, they just don't, again, they're fighters, and I understand it. I'm not going to go out and put on a fighting event because I generally have no real interest in it. As I respect fighters, and obviously, 100% looking at the top point fighters, and and obviously I'm an MMA fan, so watching Michael Page that I've used to see at point fight competitions, it blows my mind the stuff that he does on stage. But what I'm involved in and what I love is forms. So anytime like that to me was like it was Christmas when I heard that announcement. Like, that's one event. I'm thinking you could easily have 3 or 4 events like that every year, and all the forms guys would go to it. So like I said, I got to a point with it, kind of like my company, where what, if you want a job doing right, just do it yourself. So that was when we decided. That was when I decided I'm gonna treat this like a new company and just get the investment myself and work with the right people and set it up properly and do it that way and make the change happen. And that's where we're out of it. So it's a difficult one. I do feel like, though, the great thing is that there is actually a massive resurgence in forms. Like, there are more schools competing in forms now. There are more schools getting into forms as well now than there was, I would say, when just around about the time that I stopped competing. I just feel like there's, that they're so divided. The forms world, unfortunately, for everybody listening, it's not the happy. I've made it out like it's a massive community and everyone's out for each other and we're all singing Kumbaya. And unfortunately, that really isn't the case. So
not really.
There is a lot, not at all. So unfortunately, it's not the happy, one nation that I've made it out to be. There are a lot of cases of, if this person's competing, or if this school's there, or if that judge is going, or if it's under this organisation or whatever, you do get that. But again, like I said, and I feel like I'm for anyone that's listening to this, Jeff isn't paying me to say this stuff, but honestly,
it should be.
It's the only competition.
If you're listening, Jeff, send him some money.
If you're listening, Jeff, we can work this out.
Via me, then I'll forward it to him, minus a small deduction.
Minus the finder's fee. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That event, honestly, it really does. I think it's a perfect word because it really does unite the scene. Like there's people and schools that are at that event together that you do not see at any other event. Literally, that's the level that he's gone to with this thing. And even by their own admission, even with my own event, I've made a point of talking to everybody that I want to get involved in and making sure the schools understand what we're doing and trying to get them involved and stuff. And obviously I've asked the questions like I asked you, is there anyone that you do or don't want to work with? If there's any reason, blah, blah, blah. And, a lot of schools were like, we don't want to work with this person. If this person's there, I'd really rather them not judge my kids. I just want to make sure this isn't there because this happened. And it's but they've all said to me afterwards, it doesn't matter if they are, I'm still going to come.
Yeah.
But like I said, there's a lot of politics and a lot of things. If you're not in the scene and you don't understand the scene, it's hard if you're not immersed in the culture, you can't begin to understand it. And I feel like that's where a lot of these promoters are going wrong. Like they understand and they are immersed in the fighting culture. Point fighting is what they've grown up doing and understand it and know it. And they know what the schools want. They understand that side of it. But like you said, the forms is something that they understand. All they understand it as is, for most people, is that it's something that's always been there.
Yeah.
And it's another. To be really blunt about it, it's another income to bring in on the day. That's pretty much as far as it goes, and they're not really, because they don't get all of these little problems and understand like that type of stuff and coming it from that angle. That's, I think, where they fall apart. But yeah, like I said, not all tournaments are bad. Some are worse than others. Like there's some that I flat out refuse to go to now. But like I said, like for our club anyway, for 2019, I feel like we're, with all the events that I'm putting on, with the exception of Unity Games and some of the international ones, and maybe there'll be a couple of events in the UK, but all of these open tournaments, we're done with them. Like there's no point in. I'd rather build an open form circuit myself through this new charity that we set up, than continue to support what something that isn't going to change. And I don't really feel like it's actually their place to change it. I think that's another thing. I feel like it's our place. If the scene's bigger and there's more form schools going, then geographically, if there's a tournament, that's close to you that does forms, you're going to go to it. So everybody's going to benefit from me doing this. If there's more people competing at the end of 2019 than there is now, then they're going to want to go and get competition time wherever they can get it, and then put that, and then obviously focus on the big events. So, that's how I look at it. It's not about me saying, don't ever go to these events or don't do this one. It really is just about, I feel like, we need to create something that's for us, and it needs to be created by somebody that is really passionate and understands the scene enough to do it. I think Jeff has done an incredible job, and to be quite honest with you, he's somebody that from watching what he's done with that event, it's inspired me to kind of do this. And that's pretty much where it is, really. So,
on that fantastically positive note, we're going to bring things to a close, sir, because we've been talking for nearly an hour. It's gone so fast.
That doesn't sound like us.
It doesn't, does it? I think we were on the phone for about 3 hours last time. It was ridiculous. Yeah. But no, it's great. All very positive sounding. What I will do is I will link a lot of this stuff that we've talked about in the show notes so people can go and have a click around and find it for themselves. But in the meantime, where's the best place for people to find out more about you, about your club, about the things that you've been talking about? Where can they go to find out more?
Best place to look for us, Team UTX, Facebook, Urban Tricks Academy, which is our original name. We're constantly changing. I need to actually launch this website. I've gone through about 5 versions of it. For some reason, I'm doing everything I've taught our kids not to do, and I keep going back to the drawing board. But I'm gonna have that URL up. I've made a commitment that it has to be up by the end of summer, and that'll be up. That's going to be utxacademy.com. Definitely search for. I'll send you all these links anyway, but search for Kojo's Trick Lab. Which I will give you all a discount I'll give you all a discount code if anyone wants to go in and sign up to that.
There you go, special offer.
There you go, special offer. I'll give that out as well. And then YouTube. If you just type in Team UTX, you'll see some of our guys come up. JJ Patel is one of our one of our top forms competitors, and Bethany Marsh, and I could go on forever with all these names. But yeah, just Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. There you go.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for giving me an hour of your what sounds like very precious time and a bit of time off. I really, really appreciate you helping me out on this one last minute, and
it's
been cool to catch up again, and I look forward to working with you in the near future to help carry on promoting things. I've just had some more ideas while you've been talking as well. Oh, and another thing, whilst I've been talking, if you've got a couple of minutes at any point and you've got the internet where you are, if you use the Wayback When machine on the internet, I don't know if you've ever used it before, but I just went on Wayback When. No, it's this website where you can go into it and type in any website URL, and it captures images from the website over the years. And they've actually got...
Is this your video or picture on Bilang.com?
I've just found a photograph of myself doing an Albertido in 2001 on Bilang.com on page 3. I was on page 3 with Ashley Beck and Jo. There's us.
I remember Jo.
Yeah, it's that long ago. Jo's got hair. We're all doing the same kick. We're all doing the Albertido. That's all anybody did. That and a jump front kick. So yeah,
that's for anybody that doesn't know. I actually remember I met Chris, and this has got to be like maybe 2001.
Yeah,
I met Chris at Senai, but I think I spoke to you online prior to that.
Probably,
and I think I met you or even heard of you through Bilang.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing Chris online at the Senai. And he had was your team, wasn't it? Team Altitude.
No, that wasn't that. No, it's that long ago. If it's the team, I think it is, because it's a long time ago.
You were wearing white gi trousers and white t-shirts.
With
I remember you were filming them
with like blue. Yeah. And
you had Chris Jones on your t-shirt.
That's right. I had that because I didn't know who I was. I was that confused. It was the school that I was teaching. Yeah, it would have been. Danny Ball, Andy Taylor, Ian Barnes. Stuart Wade.
Bannister, was he in that one as well?
No, he wasn't. No, Stuart Wade.
Did he not?
I don't know if Jamie Folding was on it as well, but he's doing really well now. I think he just won a title in fighting just recently. His video was going around Facebook doing the slide sidekick, bouncing the guy's head off the cage. That went round the world.
The MMA guy. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, do you remember the slide sidekick where he does the chain kick? Bang! Yeah, that's Jamie. He was in that team. He'll have been there competing. He'll have been about 3 foot tall.
Yeah.
So that's how long ago that was.
I remember watching you guys doing all the tricks on stage, and another look. This is how the internet worked. I remember seeing the sign on his back. I remember it saying Chris Jones, and I remember turning to one of my friends that. Again, I was the only guy that was fascinated with tricking or forms. All they cared about was like really old school MMA cage fighting. I remember seeing the name Chris Jones. I remember turning to him, oh shit, that's Chris Jones.
Oh god, cringe.
I remember that.
And come all these years later, I'm now sat in an office talking to you on the internet. Look how far I've come.
Absolutely.
But no, it's been a pleasure, sir. Thank you very much for your time, and
awesome.
I will catch up with you soon. I've no doubt plenty of stuff to catch up on.
I won't give you a call next week because I'm sure you don't need to hear half about everything. But I will be dropping you some emails and stuff in regards to that event and whatnot.
Brilliant.
And yeah, we'll go from there.
Thank you, sir.
Enjoy our podcast? Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review Kickback with Chris on iTunes today.
So big thanks to Nathan for his time today. As I said at the start of that, it wasn't organised. Well, it was organised in the sense of let me know when you get there, mate, and we'll see if you can work something out. Completely my fault. As I said at the start, I was ill at the beginning of the week, and it just meant schedules clashed. But I did not want to not have a show for today. No excuses. So Nathan's really helped me out there with that one. He was actually scheduled to be on the show later on in the year. Whether he knows that or not, I don't know. But I had him on my list of people to contact. So big thanks to him for giving us some time today on his holiday to give us quite well. It's always. Whether you are into the topic or not, it's always good to hear somebody who is passionate about the subject they're talking about, and I think it's fair to say that Nathan very much is passionate about forms and tricking in general. So thank you for that. I would urge anybody out there that's listened to that maybe doesn't have so much of an understanding, or maybe isn't overly keen on it, to just give it some time, give it a look into, because these kids that it was talking about, and we used to have a competitive side to my school in forms and tricking as well. And these kids and these adults, these guys work so hard at this. It's not like they just rock up on one day and know how to do all this stuff. They have to drill it, and work it like crazy to get good. The discipline and the focus and determination that they have to put in to get to the level that they do, it's the core elements of martial arts are in there. Not necessarily the physical attributes, the martial technique, but the ethos, the thinking, the mental and attitude towards martial arts is very much instilled within in the forms and tricking. So yeah, give it a try, give it some thought, and maybe next time you come across a video on the internet and you want to go laying into it because it's not real martial arts, maybe you just hold off, give it some thought before you go steamrolling straight into it with any negativity. So earlier on, we touched on this briefly in the interview with Nathan. He actually brought up a video that I did not long ago. And I did actually, some of you may have seen the live video, but I did want to discuss it on a podcast at some point about the way, I don't know if you're an instructor out there and you're listening, if you've noticed quite a sizable shift in the way that kids are learning within the schools, in your school, whether it's forms or kata or syllabus, regardless of your system. I personally have found over the years, and I mean, I've been teaching in my own school since the early, sort of about 2003, and prior to that, the late 90s, I was teaching for somebody else's full-time school. So it's all that I've really known in my adult life is teaching full-time. And it's not that I'm now teaching differently. Obviously, you're always constantly honing and changing things to try and provide a better service and try and give your students a better experience. But I've noticed now that the kids just the way that they're being taught, I say taught as a generic term, sort of handled in school, so to speak. It's meant now that it's becoming, I found personally, more and more difficult to get kids to take the syllabus in. And the other side of it, let's say we're in a grading scenario or pre-testing, I'm finding getting kids lining up, and rather than run the risk of going wrong, they just pretend they don't know how to do it. A lot, almost as if to say, well, if I don't have a go, I can't get it wrong, and if I don't get it wrong, then that's not bad. And it's almost like they are systematically having that competitive element stripped from them. To what end, I don't really know. Whether that's the aim, I don't know. I'm not going to get into some crazy conspiracy theorist, but it's very strange. As an example that I gave, what actually sparked the live video at the time was that I won't say which school, but a school local to us. There was a group of kids playing football before school, and long story short, one of the senior staff members from the school came out and told them off for playing an organised, safe. They weren't hoofing the ball around like loonies. An organised, safe game of football, and it wasn't even in an open area. It was actually in, if you've ever seen these sort of new enclosures the schools are starting to have, they almost have like a metal frame around to keep the ball enclosed, so the kids are in and they can't. They were actually inside that, and they got told off for playing football before school. Now, from the school side, do I get it? Yeah, because parents nowadays are so quick to jump on schools for the slightest bump or scrape that kids get. It's this sort of Jeremy Kyle generation, where everyone's going to put in a claim. So I get that the schools are being touchy about it, but surely is there not a point where we reach a standing point and go no further than this, because this is just ridiculous. And I think telling kids off for playing football at primary school level is giving a very, very, very bad image or idea in their head of sports and of physical activity. It's bad, you don't do it. This same school banned a 4-year-old from doing cartwheels on the field because there wasn't a qualified member of staff to supervise them. to do a cartwheel, a 4-year-old doing a cartwheel. Well, they might kick somebody. Well, yes, they might. What will everybody learn from that? I'm sure the kid doing the cartwheel won't kick the other child to such a degree that they're going to, permanently injure them. Will they get a bump and a bruise? Probably. Might they at worst get a bent nose? Yeah, possibly. I doubt it. But what are they going to learn from the experience? When someone's doing a cartwheel, don't walk into them. If you're walking in a direction, look where you're going. If you're doing a cartwheel, don't just throw yourself around. You might hurt somebody. But if the system just removes all these opportunities from the kids to learn, to make these mistakes, to witness other people making these mistakes, it doesn't give them that opportunity to experience and grow. When they just turn into these kids that when you stand them up in lines in a martial arts class and ask them to do something, they freeze on the spot. They refuse to move for fear of going wrong. And it's scary. If you've had this experience out there in your school, if you've found ways of working around this, or have concerned yourself, then please do get in touch. It's something that I would actually like to discuss with other people later on another show. But we're going to finish up there. Again, thank you for putting up with this slightly cobbled together episode, which oddly enough is probably going to end up as one of the longest ones. Funny how these things work. More details coming up very soon about what we're coming up in the coming weeks. I have also this week, for those of you that have seen, I did mention on last week's episode that I'm going to be doing, I won't say a tour, but travelling around the country giving kicking workshops, with proceeds from each of the workshops going to JC Dragon's Heart Europe, which is Jackie Chan's Europe end of his charity. So if you're interested in booking a workshop, please do get in touch with me. I've had 2 people contact me so far. We're getting the details ironed out as we speak. So I hope to be able to share with you how that goes in the very, very near future. But if you are interested, get in touch. I'm not going to charge you an absolute arm and a leg. I'm a nice guy like that. If you mention the podcast, I might even give you another discount. Maybe. Depends, really. Depends who you are. But no, joking aside, please do get in touch. I always like to visit schools, get out there, chat with instructors, maybe even work something out to get you guys on. And of course, the other bonus, we get to support a really good cause, supporting UK charities and those abroad. Thanks again, guys. Have a great weekend, whatever it is you're doing. And I will hopefully, all being well, unless I manage to get ill again, speak to you all next week. Thanks, and see you later.